going on YouTube? This is Dr. Diddy here, and I am very excited to be bringing you the first of hopefully many more to come Pokemon Showdown team building and laddering guides to you. So today I'm asking you the question, can hyper offensive teams be successful in the Pokemon VGC 2015 format? Now, if you don't know what the VGC format is, there's a link in the description down below that you can click that goes over the rules and what it is. But basically, it is the style of play that are used at officially sanctioned Nintendo Pokemon tournaments. It's definitely my favorite form of Pokemon playing competitively. I love Showdown, like Smogon singles, but VGC I think just has a really unique play style to it. It allows you to do things that you can't do in singles. Certain things are viable in VGC that are not. But today, the question of hyper offense, which has proven to be a very effective tactic in singles, and has at times proven to be effective in VGC as well, is typically not used. Star VGC players tend to favor bulk over extreme attack and speed, just because there are so many ways that people can counteract hyper offense in VGC. So, without further ado, I'm going to go over this hyper offensive VGC 2015 team that I've put together here, kind of explaining the Pokemon choices that I've made, why they have certain moves and EV spreads, etc. And then from there, we're going to do some laddering on the Battle Spot Doubles Pokemon Showdown ladder here today. So we'll see if this can prove to be an effective strategy. And if you are curious, feel free to leave a comment, a like down below. So we're going to start off with pretty much the most used Pokemon in the format currently. Kangaskhan, Mega Kangaskhan to be precise. As you can see, I'm running a Mega Kangaskhan here. Everybody uses Kangaskhan. I mean, not everybody, but everybody at some point has used Kangaskhan because it's just so unbelievably powerful, and if you're using hyper offense, it makes sense that you'd be running a Kangaskhan as well. So I'm running it with Kangaskhanite, Scrappy, so that if I get faked out on the first turn, I can not flinch. Or excuse me, what am I talking about? That's Inner Focus. I'm not running Inner Focus. Forgive me. I'm running Scrappy so I can hit ghost types with normal and fighting type moves. What I really like about running Scrappy Kangaskhan here is that on turn 1, if I'm facing down an opponent's Gengar, for example, or something like that, I can actually not Mega Evolve and then go for Fake Out and fake out my opponent's Chandelure or Gengar or what have you. Pretty cool. So nothing really out of the ordinary if you're familiar with running Mega Kangaskhan in competitive singles or doubles. This is a fairly standard spread that I have here. I'm running the Fake Out, Frustration, Power Up Punch, and Sucker Punch now. And if you were playing if you're playing VGC in real life, you might run Return instead because it's very challenging to keep a Pokemon at minimum happiness. Because even stuff like healing your Pokemon, walking around like 4 steps gets it some happiness, which would decrease the amount of damage Frustration does. But in Pokemon Showdown, that's not the case. So instead, I'm going to be running Frustration just on the off chance that if I were to be facing down an opposing Mega Kangaskhan and or another Pokemon that happened to share Return with this, and I got used Imprison or something, then I want to be able to still attack. So I'm running Frustration instead. Power Up Punch is awesome, you know, with when you Mega Evolve and you have the Parental Bond, you can get up to +2 in one single turn, which is pretty awesome. And Power Punch also serves as an effective Bisharp counter, which is one of the most commonly used Pokemon in the VGC format currently. So that's why I'm running that there. And as you can see, looking at my team, I'm running the Gengar and the Sylveon as well. Both threatened quite a deal by Bisharp, so it's important to have a Kangaskhan with Power Punch or Low Kick. In this case, I'm running Power Punch because it's hyper offense. If you're doing hyper offense, I want to get to +2 at least. And then Sucker Punch as well. Having that priority ability to do the priority Sucker Punch damage to my opponent is, I think, really key if you're running hyper offense. You need various ways to have speed control, and on this team I have a few. And for the EV, but in terms of the EV spread, I'm running Max Attack, Max Speed, Adamant, because I want to do as much damage as possible, and I don't think that running a Jolly Kangaskhan allows me to outspeed anything that I need it to outspeed, considering the other members of this team. Cool, let's move on. Don't hate on me because I'm using Talonflame, alright? I love Talonflame, everybody loves Talonflame, it's an awesome Pokemon. So here it is. This is one of the more effective Glass Cannon speed control Pokemon we have in the format, and that's why it's on this team. So I'm running Talonflame with a Life Orb. There are a few options here. If you really wanted to do absolute balls to the walls hyper offense, you could run Choice Band, but I like having Life Orb because it gives you a little bit more flexibility while also allowing you to get additional damage output. So having Choice Band Brave Bird, it can be nice, but it also is quite stifling, I feel. So, and when I go over a few other of its move choices, you'll understand why I have the Life Orb here. So the Gale Wings obviously gives its flying type moves priority. incredibly useful, so that no matter what's going on, if my opponent pulls out a Trick Room or something else, Tailwind, I can still use my Gale Wind Brave Bird to essentially be doing some damage here when I've got Talonflame out. So for the moves on this Pokemon, I'm actually running Brave Bird, Flare Blitz, Will-O-Wisp, and Protect. Now, Will-O-Wisp is something that not many of my opponents seem to predict when I pull out Talonflame. Typically when you see Talonflame, it's Life Orb, or excuse me, Choice Band Brave Bird, or like a Focus Sash, something like that, running Tailwind support. However, with my team, I don't find Tailwind being particularly useful, since I have all my Pokemon are basically fast, minus one very important one that doesn't need to be fast. So I like running Will-O-Wisp on my Talonflame here. It gets a lot of surprise burns that people don't expect, and it can be very useful because my Talonflame, of course, is very fast. Now, I'm using a very similar spread that you can tell. I'm running 252 Adamant and then 252 Speed as well. 4 in Special Defense is pretty irrelevant, but I didn't feel it was necessary to put it into HP, giving an even number, just in case, for the off chance somebody decides to put up Stealth Rocks in VGC, which has only happened to me like once in the past year, so. But I digress. One of the most used Pokemon in the format as well is Sylveon, and this is a very standard Sylveon here. I'm running it with the Choice Specs and Pixelate. You could run Pixie Plate as well, it gives it a little more flexibility, but I'm choosing to just go for Choice Specs because 90% of the time anyway you're going to be using only Hyper Voice. So we're going through the moves. Pixelate, of course, gives it its normal type moves become Fairy and have 1 times 1.3 power, which is really awesome. So Hyper Voice, spread move, 90 damage, times 1.3 stab, Fairy. Very useful considering so much of the format is Dark and Dragon, on which it's super effective. I'm running Hyper Beam and Shadow Ball. The 4th move is, it varies depending on your team. Some people opt to run Psyshock. Some people would actually rather have Psyshock than Hyper Beam, but Hyper Beam is very effective at getting surprise KOs on things that are predicting you to use Hyper Voice, but instead you use the stab, pixelated Hyper Beam instead, which is pretty awesome, I must say. Hardly ever use Hyper Beam, but you're hardly ever using Shadow Ball or Psyshock anyway, so that's why I just decided to go for Hyper Beam. And the nature of this team, my Pokemon are very threatened by stuff like Gastrodon, bulky waters like that, so I'm actually running Hidden Power Grass. Hyper Voice does a pretty significant amount of damage to a Gastrodon, but I think it's very important for this team in particular to be able to get a one-hit KO on those Gastrodons by using the Hidden Power Grass. So, because of that, it's actually limiting my special attack by 1 EV, or IV, rather, but it doesn't really matter to me. I'm actually going to go ahead and make this 0 for the heck of it, just so it takes even less damage from foul plays. So, my EV spread here, 252 HP, 252 modest, special attack, 4 in defense, because a lot of the metagame is currently physical, and I want the extra defense just in case I need to take an Iron Head from a Mawile or a Bisharp, something like that. Though I don't know if it's taking it anyway. Now, I'm actually running a Choice Scarf on this Landorus. I don't have, as you notice, that this team is actually pretty damaged by Trick Room, so we need to prevent that from going up, but Choice Scarf and Landorus Therian outspeeds certain things that I really like it to outspeed. So with the Intimidate, I'm running a pretty typical spread here, minus having Protect because it has a Choice Scarf. Rock Slide, Earthquake, Superpower, and Knockoff, allowing me to KO stuff like Gengars and other Trick Room users such as Gothitelle, etc. with the right support. And then Superpower for those opposing Kangaskhan's, Bisharps, etc. Rock Slide and Earthquake, just 2 amazing moves. And then 252 attack, Jolly, 252 speed, 4 special defense. Pretty straightforward. Here's my Gengar spread. This actually is a little bit different in some ways than some of the other Gengar spreads you might have seen, just in the sense that I'm running Focus Sash, that's standard, got the Levitate ability, it's the only ability it has, and I'm running Sludge Bomb, Taunt, Shadow Ball, and Protect. A lot of Gengars do not run Protect, instead favoring to have something like Disable, Parastrap if you're using Parastrap team, etc. And it can learn Trick Room, I think, too, right? Nope. Yes, it can learn Trick Room. But I'm actually running Protect on this one because it gives it a little bit more longevity. Oh, usually people would run Will-O-Wisp as well, but I already have Will-O-Wisp on my Talonflame over here, so I don't think it's necessary to have. I also have a Run Wash, but we'll get there. So I'm running the Sludge Ball and the Shadow Bomb. The dual stabs are nice. Sludge Bomb for all the fairies that are running around, Shadow Ball for everything else. Taunt is really nice so that when I'm facing down opposing Pokemon that are going to be using Trick Room or something like that, I can use Taunt if they don't have Mental Herb, which they pretty much always would anyway, but it's a very, very, very useful card. And I'm running max special attack, max speed with 0 in attack, again, for those foul plays that you might end up taking at some point. After that, and Timid. Last, but finally, we get to Rotom Wash, last but certainly not least. This is, I believe it's Aaron Zhang's Rotom Wash set. It might be something that I just came up with. I can't recall off the top of my head. But I'm running Citrus Berry on my Rotom Wash so that I can stick around a bit longer, and I'm running Hydro Pump, Thunderbolt, Will-O-Wisp, and Protect. So I've got Will-O-Wisp on both Rotom Wash and Talonflame, and then for the EV spread, I've got max HP, 100 defense, but it's bold as well, 4 in special attack, 144 in special defense. So you notice that my just slightly bulkier physically instead of, especially because more of the format is physical as opposed to special. But I've got the special defense investment as well, and I can kind of neutralize the physical damage too by having Intimidate on my Landorus, and then 8 in speed just to kind of speed creep opposing Rotom Washes. So, now we've taken a look at the team, we'll do some laddering here on the Pokemon Showdown VGC 2015 Battlespot Doubles ladder with this team, and we will see if I am able to get this going here. What do you think? Am I going to be able to ladder up a little bit? I'm not very high up on the ladder currently right now. I've been testing out a lot of different things, trying to get ready for Premier Challenges coming up in my area, so don't be surprised by the caliber of the battles that I might end up facing, but we're going to see if this hyper-offensive team can actually make it up the ladder in Pokemon Showdown's VGC 2015 format. Notice that my Pokemon Showdown looks different than yours probably would if you just downloaded the program or were playing it online. That's because I have a stylish theme, the X and Y battle theme, installed with Stylish for my Chrome browser, and if you're interested in that, I will include a link to it in the description down below as well. I think it's just a little nicer. Looks a little nicer in my opinion than the one that's built in. So my opponent here, using some interesting Pokemon, I'm seeing he's definitely got the Sand Force Stoutland over there, because being supported by Aegislash and the Tyranitar with the Sandstream. Rotom Wash, probably a Mega Salamence there, and then a Volcarona as well, probably with redirection there so he can set up with his Salamence, I would imagine. Probably running Wide Guard on that, Aegislash as well, so I'm going to have to be wary of that. I'm going to want a way of KOing it without having my Landorus using Earthquake or Knockoff being the only way of doing so. So, right away, looking at my team, he's probably going to, I don't know, would he set up with Salamence or go for Sand right away? I'm not sure. But I don't have any reason to not bring an Intimidate user here, so I'm actually going to start with Landorus, which will be very useful considering he's got that Salamence and the Stoutland and the Tyranitar, all of which I'd like to Intimidate a bit. I can always switch out as well. I think I will bring... I think he's probably going to lead off with Salamence because of the Intimidate, and my team's pretty weak to that, so I'll bring my own Landorus, and then I think I'm going to bring, actually... Could bring Sylveon out right away and get his Choice Specs Hyper Voice off in case he doesn't leave with his Aegislash, which I don't think he will, so actually I'm going to do that because I want to get some damage out right away. And even if he does switch, that forces him to switch basically if he leads with Tyranitar or Salamence, those two Pokemon that I'm both worried about quite a bit. In the back here, I could also just lead with Fake Out Mega Kangaskhan, but I don't know if that's the best option. Kangaskhan doesn't really seem very useful other than for KOing Tyranitar with Power Up Punch, so which I might not be able to do. Can't really touch Aegislash once it Mega Evolves. Landorus is good because it KOs that Volcarona. I think I'm gonna bring. I'm definitely gonna bring Gengar so I can KO that Aegislash if I need it. Which just. It's weak to Rotom. I'm bringing Talonflame. My opponent with the timer there, totally fine. As he does choose to lead with Sand right away, Tyranitar and Stoutland, so this is great for me. I got the Intimidate off on both of them. I'm predicting he's probably going to want to switch here, considering I've got the Choice Specs Hyper Voice that I can pull off. Now Stoutland actually does not have Sand Force, it has Sand Rush, so it's going to be really fast. So what I'm actually going to do is go for a Superpower on that, and then just go straight up for a Hyper Voice. Don't have to think too hard right off the bat here, just because I was able to, I think, predict to some extent what my opponent was going to do. Now, I would expect him to switch out, trying to preserve that Tyranitar Sandstream to support his Aegislash that he probably has in the back, because Sand boosts your special defense. He might be running the Focus Sash on his Tyranitar. Could be a Mega Tyranitar, he could have 2 Megas as well. I'm predicting his Stoutland will probably go for some sort of, I don't know what move Stoutland even used, like Return or Head Smash or something like that. Does it learn? I can't recall. Stoutland actually used After You. Wow, that's not a strategy I've seen before. Tyranitar is obviously Choice Scarf because it was able, or no. Looks like, so I don't know what After You does. I've never seen that move before. Tyranitar took the kind offer. What does that mean? I'll have to look it up. Tyranitar used Ice Beam. It's, I guess it must be EV'd to survive a Choice Specs Sylveon's Hyper Voice, because it, or maybe I just got a min damage roll on it. But basically almost KO'd both of his Pokemon, and his Tyranitar was able to KO my thing. So it must obviously be Choice Scarfed. It just seems very strange. I guess After You maybe increases the priority of Tyranitar or gives it additional speed or something like that so it could KO my Landorus, because otherwise it wouldn't have outsped my Choice Scarfed Landorus. It's not supposed to, so. Okay, I've got a few options here. I could bring out Talonflame and go for the priority Brave Bird against Stoutland, KO it, or Tyranitar. I'm gonna do that. I don't particularly want anything to get KO'd here, so. I could also just go for the Protect with my Talonflame and just go for the Choice Specs because they're both almost KO'd, and I don't think that, the two of them could combined have some move to KO my Sylveon though, so. I think it's going to be important here to use my Talonflame to KO one of them, but I don't really want to lose it either. Could also switch out as well, like I said, to try to preserve that Tyranitar, but do not know what he is running, so. Since he used the After You, I'm just going to go for the Brave Bird and try to KO that Tyranitar, which I am able to do. His Return does almost no damage because of that Intimidate, I suppose, unless he's just not running very much attack on that Stoutland. So that's a pretty interesting strategy there. Definitely want to look that up. After You. I suppose I could just do it now. After You. The target will move next on the current turn, ignoring priority. So that's kind of an interesting strategy there, giving his Tyranitar additional speed. Wow. So my opponent does bring out the Salamence here, and the Aegislash, since I was able to KO both of his other 2 Pokemon. So I'm sitting in an alright position, considering I have Gengar in the back for that Aegislash. If it comes to a 1v1, I probably won't be able to win that unless I get support from Talonflame as well. So what I'm going to do here is go for Protect, predicting him to go for a King Shield here, predicting my Flare Blitz into that. Could also go for the Will-O-Wisp onto Salamence. I do outspeed it on this turn since it doesn't get the speed boost until next turn for Mega Evolving, so I'm actually going to go for the Will-O-Wisp on there, and I am able to land it, but it turns out he's the special variant, so he's using the Hyper Voice there. It does enough damage to KO my Talonflame there, but my Hyper Voice is enough to KO his as well, but Flash Cannon comes through and does KO my Sylveon there, unfortunately. So it's now down between Gengar and Aegislash. I predict he'll probably Protect here, so I'm actually going to go for the Taunt so that he can be in defensive form. Makes sense to me. I'm going to go for the Taunt. My Focus Sash is neutered because of the Sand, unfortunately, so I don't think I'm going to win this match. Probably could have played that a bit better. Sand has lasted for a really long time, though, this entire match. This is kind of the way that it works out when you're running Hyper Offense, though, is that the games don't last very long. The longer the games last, the less likely they are for you to be, for them to be wins for you, just because it is so challenging there. So last turn I was able to go for the Taunt, so he's unable to King Shield now. I used Protect because he was in Shield form, and then I could have just gone for the I outspeed him, so I could go for the Shadow Ball to KO him since he's not in the Shield form, he's in the Sword form. So that's one win for this team, so woot. Try to find another match here on Pokemon Showdown as I find one right away. My opponent here using probably a pretty bulky team, so that's going to be very challenging for me to overcome with my Hyper Offense team here. So He's running a Whimsicott, again, Garchomp, Gardevoir, Zapdos, Gyarados, and Heatran. Of all of them, I'm most worried about Heatran. Whimsicott, I can probably KO. It's probably running Focus Sash. I'll want to lead off with Gengar. I'll probably go for a Tailwind, I would imagine, or Elite. Something else could go for, I don't know. I've seen Whimsicott using like Fake Tears, Memento, etc. There are a lot of options there. I love Whimsicott. I think it's great. And I'll probably be using it on a future team if I can make one successfully. I'm really struggling to make some VGC teams that seem to do very well. So, the Gyarados could very well be Mega. You don't see a ton of normal Gyarados running around, just because there are other Pokemon that can use Thunder Wave and some of the other moves that it can more effectively. I'll predict that's probably an offensive Zapdos there, if I had to guess. So what I'm going to want to do here is lead with Gengar probably, and excuse me. I could lead with Landorus again and switch out. I think I'm going to lead with Kangaskhan though, because the priority is going to help me take out that Whimsicott right away. And Kangaskhan has Power Punch for that Heatran there. Heatran. Could bring in the Gengar. Oh, I already have Gengar. What am I thinking? Frustrating. So, I could bring the Rotom Wash as well. I'm going to for sure, just because it's got the Will-O-Wisp for Garchomp, and then it's got the Thunderbolt for Gyarados, and the Hydro Pump for Heatran. And then as my fourth Mon, I'm going to bring, I think, Sylveon, just because nothing can really resist its Choice Specs, Hyper Voice, except for that Heatran. So, as my opponent leads with Zapdos and Garchomp, totally fine with me. The question will be what to do here now. I think I'm actually just going to go for the Taunt and Mega Evolution Fake Out. I don't want to do it onto the Garchomp because it undoubtedly has Rough Skin. So I'm actually just going to double up on the Zapdos here because I think it's more threatening to my team as I get a crit on the first Fake Out, bringing that Zapdos down to half, revealing it is not running the Citrus Berry, so that's good to know. Probably Choice Specs then, or Safety Goggles if I had to predict. And then I use the Taunt on Zapdos as well, so if it isn't offensive, it won't be able to use Thunder Wave to slow down Pokemon like my Gengar. He might have been predicting me to Mega Evolve. Obviously, he would think I'd Mega Evolve Kangaskhan, so I'm not entirely sure why he used Earthquake. We are, again, further down on the ladder than I would like to be to get super competitive videos here for you all, but I digress, because obviously Gengar's not going to Mega Evolve if I have a Kangaskhan out with me, and it's got Levitate, so Earthquake's not going to affect it. So, kind of a strange tactic there by my opponent, but got a few options here. I could go for the Sludge Bomb or the Shadow Ball. I'm going to go for the Sludge Bomb onto Zapdos, trying to KO that if I can, and then I'm going to go for the... maybe instead I should go for Shadow Ball onto Garchomp, and then go for Frustration onto the Zapdos as he switches out into the Gyarados. Good play, getting the Intimidate off. Definitely a good strategy on his part as he uses Earthquake once again. Pretty strange. Shadow Ball does a decent amount to the Garchomp, and my Frustration does a pretty substantial amount to that Gyarados. So now I need to keep in mind that I can switch out as well. He's going to go for an Earthquake, and he keeps outspeeding me, so I'm going to keep in my Gengar here. Go for the Sludge Bomb onto that Gyarados, I think, and then here I'll just switch out into the Rotom Wash so that his Earthquake doesn't end up affecting me. Again, he's just going for the Earthquake, not predicting really what I'm doing here. Sludge Bomb is able to KO that Gyarados, so this is a completely perfect turn for me here. Could not have gone better. He does bring out the Zapdos once again. I'm feeling pretty good about my position currently. I'm going to go for a Sludge Bomb onto that. Now, he might have Heatran in the back. Seeing my Sludge Bomb, I'm actually going to switch and go for Shadow Ball, just so in case he does switch onto the Heatran, I still do some damage to it. And I'm going to go for the Will-O-Wisp onto that Garchomp, which he does switch out into the Gardevoir, actually. Shadow Ball is able to KO that, though, however, and Will-O-Wisp misses, but it doesn't matter because it's Gardevoir. So now it's 4 on 2. This is kind of a wash here. Pun not intended. Forgive me for my phone going off. I'm going to take a look at that. And got a few options here. Gardevoir will probably go... I would imagine we'll either go for an ally switch, could go for a psychic move onto like Psychic or Psyshock onto my Gengar, which I think it probably would do. So here I'm actually going to protect and go for the Will-O-Wisp onto that Garchomp. I'd like to get it burned if possible, as it actually Mega Evolves this Mega Gardevoir here. Garchomp goes for the Rock Slide, please. Oh, it misses. Wow, this is really just not going very well for my opponent here. His Hyper Voice does a really substantial amount to my Rotom here, and I get the burn onto that Garchomp. So that Garchomp is pretty much neutralized at this point. As he's going for Hyper Voice, I'm just going to go straight up for a Sludge Bomb and a Hydro Pump on this. Again, misses the Gengar. Hopefully my Rotom doesn't flinch. Sludge Bomb doing an unbelievable amount to that Gardevoir and actually snagging the poison, which is perfect because that'll be KO'd at the end of this turn, and Hydro Pump lands. So, yeah, I actually was able to win that match 4-0. That does not happen very often. And I don't know, you can't see this, but my ranking right now is actually only 1280 on the ladder. I'm very low, and my opponent was actually higher than me, so. 2 matches so far, 2 victories. That's pretty unusual, I would say, but we'll see if we can keep it going to this next match here, as my opponent is clearly using some sort of Trick Room team. Seeing the Gardevoir and Escavalier, it's very uncommon for you to run Escavalier if you are not running Trick Room, just because it's so slow. As the Raikou, pretty interesting. I don't see them very often in VGC. I think they're pretty viable, but they just don't have enough very useful offensive moves and typings. You know, Hidden Power, Ice typically, Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, stuff like that, Shadow Ball. So what I'm thinking of doing here, predicting him to lead off with Landorus. I mean, for these 2 Pokemon right here and my own Landorus, it seems likely that he would want to lead off with Landorus and something else. What I will do is lead off with, I think I'm going to lead off with Landorus and actually Rotom, because I want to get a burn off or a Hydro Pump on that. If I can, I'm going to want that. If he does get Trick Room up, which I would assume he would in this first turn, maybe I should go with Kangaskhan instead to try to get him to flinch. Actually, I'm going to run with Kangaskhan and Gengar. If I could get a Taunt and Fake Out onto that thing, then that would be amazing before it sets up Trick Room. In the back, I'm going to have Talonflame because it's got priority, which isn't affected by Trick Room, so I can get, you know, some damage off in that way. Could bring the Sylveon as well because I have Talonflame to kind of KO that. Everything, once I KO his Cavalier, everything else dies to a Hyper Voice. So that's what I'm going to do, because he leads off with Landorus and Raikou. Okay, so maybe it's not Trick Room, you know? Maybe this is just a team of Pokemon that he likes or something, but interesting strategy nonetheless, as I'm actually going to go ahead and Mega Evolve and go for the Fake Out on his Landorus, although, because I don't want it to go for a Superpower and KO me, but it could also just go for, I don't want it to go for a U-turn either, but it could just switch out as well, which would be a little unfortunate. Is there a better option? Raikou's probably Choice Specs, and we'll go for some sort of really powerful move on my Kangaskhan to try to KO it, so I could switch out my Kangaskhan into Sylveon, which would resist Superpower and might be able to tank a hit from Raikou, but then I would need to KO it somehow with Gengar. Maybe I should do that. Sludge Bomb does a little bit more damage, so I'm actually just going to go for a Sludge Bomb on that Raikou, predicting the Landorus to either go for a Superpower or to retreat. Oh, Sludge Bomb does like nothing, as Shadow Ball is able to do an immense amount of damage, getting the special defense drop, which does not matter, but I do resist the Superpower there, so that's pretty good. My opponent undoubtedly going to switch out here, as I'm just going to go for the Hyper Voice and actually predicting his Raikou to go for another Shadow Ball onto my Gengar here. See, that's one of the reasons why it's nice to have Protect on Gengar. It just gives it a little additional longevity, I think. Often you see, you always see Protect on Mega Gengars that are running Perish Trap, but I find it very useful even on just a Focus Sash Gengar in general. You know, if I get an attack off and then get knocked down in my Focus Sash, I can go for a Protect next turn, because people don't Protect on Gengar for some reason, although I think it might be becoming a little more standard at this time. I want to make sure that my webcam doesn't get out of sync here. My opponent taking a few minutes here to figure out what his or her best move is. Chris probably is a guy, though. Kind of hard to tell with the rocker person representing them, though. I might go ahead and pause it until my opponent takes a move here. So my opponent did make a move here. He switched out, as I predicted, actually deciding to go for the Snarl. So a pretty awesome move, revealing he's not Choice Specs, as my Sylveon does get that Hyper Voice off. I would predict him to probably go for that same Snarl move again, lowering my damage output a bit more. So got a few options here. I do outspeed, I learned in the first right. But if he protects that, trying to KO it, because I don't know that's it would KO it otherwise. Do I need my Gengar for anything else? It does not appear so. He's got Melodic, Raikou, and Landorus. He could have that Gardevoir in the back, in which case it might be nice to have this Gengar. I'm actually going to switch my Gengar out. I don't think it's as important to get that KO, as Raikou actually goes for a Scald, or Thunderbolt and a Scald from the Melodic there, but I do get KO'd with the Choice Specs Pixelated Hyper Voice, in spite of the fact that my special attack was lowered one stage by that Snarl. I KO the Raikou. Melodic's pretty low there. I need to be careful because I don't want that Melodic getting any boosts, but I don't think I brought Landorus this match, so as he brings out his Landorus Therian, I'm gonna actually Mega Evolve here and go for a Fake Out. I don't want to get burned, but I also don't want to get super powered here, so the question of who to Fake Out is important. Could always switch as well. I think I'm actually going to KO Melodic because I have the Talonflame in the back, and I do not want that to get threatened by the Landorus, as unfortunately I get the defense drop, which will actually boost Melodic's attack, but doesn't matter because I'm going to be getting off a Choice Specs Hyper Voice here, KOing it, doing a pretty substantial amount to that Landorus as well. So my opponent is down to his last two Pokemon here, as I still have three, which is actually pretty nice. I'm going to go out into Gengar here just to see what his last one is, Gardevoir, which is pretty awesome. He actually traced Pixelate, so not if it does have Hyper Voice and doesn't Mega Evolve, then it's relevant, but it will Mega Evolve and use Hyper Voice anyway, so it doesn't particularly matter. Now, his Landorus is fast, so it might be Choice Scarfed or just naturally very fast, considering what I had on the field last turn. It must be at least max speed to outspeed my Kangaskhan here. Hoping that it's Choice Scarf and is not able to get a knock, and is not able to get that knockoff off onto my Gengar. Gengar actually outspeeds, gets the Sludge Bomb off, and then it goes for the Superpower and KOs my Sylveon. So it does evolve into the Mega Gardevoir, goes for the Hyper Voice, and KOs my... is able to KO my Gengar there. I mean, I knew it would, but dang. So I was really kind of hoping that that would KO it, but Gardevoirs are typically, especially Mega Gardevoirs, are typically pretty bulky anyway. Landorus here revealing it's not Choice Scarf because it, or no wait, it used Superpower twice in a row. So it might be Choice Scarf. I'm actually really hoping it is because Superpower will be resisted by Talonflame here. So this really comes down to, is it Choice Scarf or not? I'm going to use Protect to scout it out. Gardevoir using Protect as well, as he does go for Superpower. So that just could not have worked out better for me, as I'm going to go for a Brave Bird onto this Gardevoir, knowing that I can take the Superpower from the Landorus, which is already at half. He does not get the double Protect. Brave Bird is going to KO that Gardevoir, and this is looking like it might be another win for me here. Superpower doing only 24%, and it's going to be decreasing each time. So what I'm going to do this turn is actually, I'm just going to go for the Protect. There's no reason for me not to. He might surrender, but that doesn't matter because I'm just going to stall him out from additional Superpowers for one more turn. And then I'm actually, instead of going for the Brave Birds, I'm going to go for the Will-O-Wisp and try to land that because that'll lower its attack even further. I do land the Will-O-Wisp, it's burned, it's only doing 10% to me now. I'm trying to get this to last as long as possible because I have the Life Orb, which will decrease the amount of time that my Talonflame can actually survive. So I'm going to be alternating Protect here just to let the burn slowly whittle his Landorus down. I mean, it's already at 0.3 attack now, so I can probably safely go for a Brave Bird here and KO him, but just wanted to be very careful there. I don't want to lose the match in the last few moments because I thought that I'd already won. So it'd probably be more relevant for me to be higher up on the ladder before I started filming this, you know, try to get up into at least the 1400s where I can start battling some more of the competitive trainers that are on Pokemon Showdown playing VGC here, which I might do in the future. It's kind of annoying though because I like to test out teams and figure out what works and what doesn't so I can create those teams in my actual cartridge. Pokemon Showdown to me is more about being able to test Pokemon before breeding them, so I don't usually climb very high up on the ladder just because it's a more convenient way to test Pokemon instead of just using it instead of using Pokemon Showdown for itself in and of itself as a a Pokemon substitute sort of thing. I prefer to focus my attention onto the actual Battle Spot Doubles ladder on Oris and just use Showdown to test things out. In the future, though, I will try to be higher up on the ladder so I can get some more high-quality videos. But as you can see from these 3 matches that I've played so far, there is definitely still a place in VGC 2015 for hyper offense. I think part of that's due to the fact that I've been using this team for quite some time, and I kind of know how to which Pokemon to bring, etc., which can be hard, especially when you're trying out a new team, trying to figure out how it works and stuff like that. But I will leave a link, text file for this team that you can actually download or get from Pastebin or something. I haven't figured out what I'll do with it yet, but it'll be available so that you can copy and paste it into your own games in Pokemon Showdown and potentially try it out for yourself. See how it works for you. I will say, though, that when you climb up higher in the ladder, you probably won't be able to catch your opponents off guard using a hyper-offensive team like this, since they'll have bulkier mons that are specifically EV'd to survive attacks from these exact Pokemon, most likely. So my opponent here is actually going to stall out and run out of time before he loses, realizing that he's going to lose. I don't know why he just doesn't forfeit anyway, but... Anyway, Brave Bird is able to KO that Landorus there, taking the Life Orb recoil as well, and that is a match for us. So we're sitting at 36.5 minutes right now. I think I'm going to call it off there. I look forward to bringing more of these videos to the channel, and if you like what you see, I'll definitely be sure to do so if you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. So, is there a place for hyper offense in the current 2015 VGC format in Pokemon? I don't know. You be the judge. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. This is Dr. Diddy signing off. Later.